Hey guys, I'm Amanda Humphrey. I'm the managing editor here at the Daily News, and with me today is Lenize Patton from Philippians Place and Theo McClammy from Onslow Community Outreach, and we're going to be talking about something that's near and dear to a lot of our hearts, really. Onslow County's homeless population, if I remember correctly, when they did the point in time count this year, they counted 20. But with Hurricane Florence this year, I would think that's fluctuated quite a bit.
Yes.
So what we were hoping to find out is a little bit about what's available in the community and then what the community can do to help. Because, Onslow County's got an awesome heart. Mm-hmm. So we figured we'd just go ahead and put it out there, see what, is available, that kind of thing. So I guess to start with, what is available in the area for our homeless population? And it might just be easier if you each tell us a little bit about your programs.
Okay.
That work?
You want to start?
Thank you. Well, and Merry Christmas to everyone. Also, Community Outreach, we have basic human needs programs. We have a homeless shelter program, which this year will help about 300 homeless persons. We also have a soup kitchen, which is really volunteer driven, that will serve 150,000 meals to help fight hunger and to improve food security in our community. We also have a free medical clinic. There are two components to that clinic, a medical and dental component. When I came several years ago, we only had about 200 distinct patients in that clinic. We now have over 3,000 patients in our medical clinic. These are 3,000 of our neighbors who are uninsured or significantly underinsured, and their income is at the poverty rate. And we're their medical home, and we provide primary care to them, so that the hospital, the emergency room, does not have to be their primary care provider. We also have our Christmas Cheer program, which distribution is starting today over at our building on 1210 Hargett Street. Through the benevolence of our community, we will have 3,000 children and a total of 5,000 residents in our community this year with toys, bicycles, food, and a wonderful winter clothing closet where we are also providing sweaters and coats. And we sponsor the Fall Festival, Onslow Oktoberfest, which has really grown over the years, and we are bringing visitors to our community. We've expanded that to add a Veterans Appreciation Night, a softball tournament that this year, if it was not for losing so many hotel rooms because of Hurricane Florence, which you mentioned, we had registered teams from Virginia, Greensboro, all across North Carolina. So the tournament and the festival has grown tremendously. So we are, in summary, a basic needs, helping hands nonprofit in our community, and we exist through the benevolence of many volunteers and contributions from our community.
Fantastic. And I would imagine you two work together
Yes.
quite a bit.
Quite a bit. Yes, we do. Okay, we have Philippians Place, and basically Philippians Place used to be transitional housing, and so we did work hand in hand, and clients would come and live with us, but now we started a new program where we provide support and housing assistance to those in need in our community, for homeless and those in need. So we get a lot of the people who are homeless, the people who are facing homelessness, and they actually come to us. And then we actually, one thing that we had found when we were doing the transitional housing is there was gaps. There was a gap as to, where do people go to get the VI's for that, which actually gets them on a list of people who are homeless, so then we can provide resources. Where do people go to find out what all the resources are in Onslow County? And so that's something that we do at Philippians Place. And then they do the food. We do the non-food items. So we have a pantry that has all that non-food stuff that they can't get with their food stamps. The toilet paper, hygiene items, paper products, cleaning products, all of that. So people can come into our Philippians Place and into our program office, and they'll find out what we find out what their needs are. And then from there, we plant them or give them the resources that are in the county, whether it's they don't know about the transit system, we tell them the transit system, give them the brochure for that, help them navigate that, the food pantries that are in Onslow County, including the soup kitchen when they can go down there. And then also we work with the shelter. We have a program where the clients can come in and be part of our program, and they can actually volunteer, participate in our classes or our Bible studies, and for every hour that they're on our campus, they get $7 in earnings. And then they can turn around and use that in the store. So we actually have people from the shelter that they come while they're in the shelter. They're looking and filling out the applications. They can come to our place and fill out applications, and we can teach them how to fill out applications and do resumes, and then while they can come and volunteer. So when they leave the shelter, they can now come and get all the furniture that they need, and the dishes and the towels and the household items that they need for their apartment. So we've already had a couple from the shelter that's what they've done. They've come and worked with us. So yeah, we do, like I was already on the phone with Cindy this morning. We work hand in hand with the clients, and she sends them over there for us to assist them, and then we just work together. We have people who are homeless. I call saying, do you have anything available? Get them connected. We also get people who are homeless. If they're full, we get them to other homeless shelters. We call the other shelters in the other counties, and get them to another county and get them off the streets if we can, if they're willing to relocate. So we've actually been able to do that several times. We got a person in Kinston, took a person to Moorhead, got a person to Raleigh, so it gets them off of the streets. So yeah.
We have become very accustomed to, those of us who provide basic assistance to persons who are homeless. It is essential, if our community is to make an impact, is to work together. And Philippians Place is one of those agencies that we work very closely with. To give further context, you mentioned the point in time count, and that is a snapshot, one day, one evening snapshot of homelessness in our community, and the methodology is imposed upon us by federal government, by HUD. To give a broader perspective, as I mentioned earlier, our homeless shelter last year, we served 300 homeless persons. 35% of them will be families with children and veterans. We have the Women's Center in our community, which is damaged right now. I'm not sure exactly what their capacity is, so there are homeless persons there. And then there's another organization that is run by a church, it's called Second Chances. And so if you look holistically throughout the year, it is considerably more than 20 homeless persons in our community. And by working together, sharing resources, sharing information, we are able to make an impact. And we also, Lenize mentioned that we are helping clients regionally. And I think that's one of the ahas coming out of this conversation, is that we receive phone calls from Wilmington, New Bern, Greenville, all of us who provide beds. There are a limited number of beds in each community to help homeless persons, to help families. And so regularly we receive phone calls from New Bern, and all of our beds here are full. Do you have a bed available in Jacksonville? And so being able to increase our resources in various ways to help homeless persons also is important to all of us.
Yeah, this year's point in time is actually January 31st. And we're heading that up, so I'm learning all about it, more in depth.
Very much. I mentioned our Christmas cheer program earlier to illustrate the impact potential of Florence to housing and homelessness this year. We have received so far almost 1,400 applications for Christmas cheer assistance, and that program is focused here in Onslow County. 20% of the applicants for assistance this year have alternate addresses. 2 out of 10 people were impacted. They don't have the same house, the same address as they had last year. So we had families before Florence that were homeless. If they were not overtly homeless, they were doubled up. Now after Florence, they are tripled up. And we've had a further reduction of affordable housing units in our community. We've had further reduction, hopefully on a temporary basis, but city officials mentioned that there's a vast number of hotel and motel rooms that have been destroyed, that are offline. And that has, in some communities, become a resource to persons who are very low income.
Yeah.
So those units are gone.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, with the point in time
Mm-hmm.
count, the challenge will be, coming into the Onslow Community Outreach Homeless Shelter, we have 26 beds. You'll be able to count 26 beds.
Yeah.
The Women's Center,
Mm-hmm.
Second Chance, but also there's a population that is sleeping behind a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And we, all of us in the community who work on this problem, have outreach initiatives. But sometimes that individual who is homeless, there's something very challenging in their emotionally, their mental issues, and they shy away from structured settings. And that's always a challenge. But we have people, good volunteers, who go out with public safety during the point in time count and try to go into those unusual areas.
Yes.
And try to find and count them so that they're included in the study. And that's important for us because it helps us to attract resources to our community.
Now, over the last few months, I mean, just following Florence, have you seen an increase in people coming to you for shelter? And, especially with the outreaches that are more out in the community and behind the grocery stores, so to speak,
Yes.
especially with the reduced
Tremendously.
housing.
Yeah, especially with us. We have a lot of people that they're about to be evicted, or they've got 2 weeks. They've got to get out of their place because they now have mold. I mean, even a week ago, we've had people come to us and say, I'm being evicted. And they're the crazy, there's no place for them to go. Before the storm, okay, there's a whole list of places for them to rent. There's a whole list of hotels that they can rent. Sadly, some of the hotels that we could get our clients into, their prices are higher because of the storm. So same thing with rental property.
Yes.
Some of the rental property that used to be $450 is now $550 or now $500. So it's like, okay, well, my client now can't afford that apartment. So now it's, the trouble is, and the problem is actually trying to find a place. We've been able to get them connected with the different programs in the Onslow County that assist financially. We have new programs, Back to Home, that just started. That's one that we've getting people connected if they qualify. Getting them to SBA, getting them to FEMA to fill out the applications, helping them navigate through all of that so they can get the assistance they need. And then it's like, okay, going down our list of places where they can call, and then just word of mouth. We need landlords. We need people who own their own apartments and own their own trailers or whatever. And it's like, okay, we found one, but it's way over here in Pony Farm, or we found one and it's on Piney Green. Now I have to stick to town. That's very limited. But yeah, people even today are still getting kicked out, as well as still trying to find a place. Because of the storm, we just had a meeting, our coordinated meeting the other day, last Friday, and based on the McKinney-Vento, which is different than the national homeless requirement or guidelines, they have 1,139 children identified as school-age children being displaced. That's 4 times than what it normally is.
And that's here in Onslow County.
And just in Onslow County. And that's people who have admittedly said, because they don't want to get in trouble, or they don't want to get the people that they're staying with in trouble because with their landlords, because then they'll all be evicted. But they're basically doubling up. They're sleeping in their cars. They're staying in the couch. One family's in one room and the rest of the family's in another bedroom if they're in a 2-bedroom. So yeah, the storm has really hit this region and the whole coastal region hard, very hard. And people are still, it's interesting on Facebook. You'll see the post where it says, "Merry Christmas." We're not decorating the tree. We're putting drywall on the walls still. We're still decorating our walls with just the basics. But homeless community, we get every week 3 or 4. Every day we get 1 or 2 people coming in or calling us. They're either homeless or about to be homeless, or can't pay a utility or can't pay a bill. And so probably half of those are because of the hurricane. It is.
As we go toward January, February. Very traditionally, of course, in our community, very cold weather conditions. One of our concerns is that we're going to have more people who are obviously more people who are homeless, and we are preparing our facility and our programs to provide warming stations for people in our community. Last year, based on the experience that we had last year, we downtown facility, 600 Court Street, on those very bitter cold days when all of us get up in the morning and a weather forecaster is saying, don't go outdoors today unless you absolutely have to. And so that's a trigger, that's an alert for our programs. And so we open our doors, our facilities, and we become a warming station. And we provide coffee, tea, soup during the day. So at least people can come in and be warm and do not further harm themselves out in the very cold conditions. And we have another facility over on Hargett Street, which we use for Christmas cheer distribution, other temporary distribution activities. That building is not fully renovated for sleeping, but we do use it for distribution. We can open the doors for someone to come in and be out of the conditions, and we can take warm food over there and some hot drinks. So we're just trying to be very creative and be prepared and to help more people this year. It's going to be very challenging.
Is that going to be daytime or still just daytime, or is that going to be nighttime as well over there at where the Christmas cheer is?
That's locally people know there's old Piggly Willie building. No one can sleep in that building because it's
just during the daytime.
Yeah, it's renovation. You have to have follow very city codes and regulations in order to have someone to sleep there. But we can at least open the door and invite someone to come in, and we can. Our soup kitchen will take food over, serve that, take some coffee, some hot tea over, and so we normally do that at our downtown location. This year we're looking to do it at both locations to help meet community needs.
Definitely needed.
Well, and I would think that those who maybe frown upon the more structured setting might be willing to not necessarily come around, but might bend more towards structured if it's warm.
Yes.
And that's where they're going to get it. Is that typically how it goes? Some of those who aren't maybe so willing during the summer or when it's not miserable outside.
The larger facility over on Hargett Street, that person who is not prone to be in a more structured setting down at our downtown facility, that person will come during the day to a warming station. They're not going to stay. History informs us they're not going to stay because there's something in terms of substance abuse or the mental health issues that they're not going to stay in a structured setting very long. So we're hoping that we're going to maintain downtown 26, 30 people on those bitter cold days, but also have the other facility where, as you pointed out, that person who's not prone to be in a structured setting, to provide them with some comfort, some relief during the day. And that really is an opportunity for our community. We talked about the partnership between Philippians Place and Onslow Community Outreach earlier. We really need to partner. We are certainly and hoping to partner with churches, people of faith, civic organizations this winter as we expand our capacity to help. An opportunity is for people who our caring community, when we have those days, they can bring food, bring coats, sweaters and gloves, and help us to staff the facilities. That helps us to reduce and to manage our operating costs of the facility. And our shelter downtown, when it's full and we have 26 people there, the expense is about $300 a day. When you take in account of the food, the utilities, staffing to supervise the program. And so some groups who may want to this winter help the homeless population consider sponsoring a day at the shelter, bringing coats and hats They can designate, Onslow Community Outreach, a person can designate their gift for a homeless activity. So we certainly encourage that. Those are the kind of partnerships that we need. Many families, civic organizations, and now we have grown the number of churches that bring food to the shelter. And so at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the evening, a church can bring food and engage with the clients and to serve that. And so we found that to be very helpful to our clients. Any individual that's going through a very trying, difficult time, when someone who is very benevolent stops by to say, "I care about you. You know, here's some food, here's a hat, coat," that uplifts that the dignity of that client. It helps them know that they're still part of the community. And I think that encourages a person to help themselves.
And that's what we're all about too. It's like having that relationship. We want to get them in the door and keep them, and we have the volunteers that pour into them on a daily basis. And they come in, it's like, "Oh, hey, when you want to come back?" And just be part of that and help build them back up and get them, because life happened, especially now with this storm. Life just happened. And so, how we need to build them back up and get them back on their feet. And the only way we can do that, and the best way to do that, is come alongside them and support them and love on them and just get them going. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, as we're in the holiday season, and the hearts are big, they're always big around here anyway, but a little bigger than usual. What can the community do to help? I mean, are there any special Christmas needs for those in the shelter, or are there coat drop-off points? What would be the easiest way for us just to tell people how to help?
In connecting with our clients, we know immediately, we discussed this morning, need for on Christmas Day as well as on New Year's Day. We're looking for someone to come in, or a group to come in and provide food. On those days, special holidays, we like to keep our clients in the facility all day. So on other days when the weather is nice, we insist that people go out in the community, they be involved, they participate in positive self-help activities. But on those special days, all of us want to be indoors with families, with friends, and so on Christmas and New Year's, we would really appreciate someone or a group bringing food to the shelter, and they can stay and interact with the clients and serve the food. They just bring it, and our shelter attendants would serve the food. That's an opportunity there, and we always need volunteers. But in our shelter program, we do need volunteers who are willing to go through some training and to commit to more than just 1 or 2 days. Because it is a special needs population, and our volunteers have to understand that and be trained to properly assist our clients. And as I mentioned to you earlier, over the next couple of months, it's going to be cold, and we certainly would appreciate opportunities or donations from the community to sponsor those warm weather days, those days when we are providing a warming station for homeless persons.
Yeah, we, the same thing with us. We're not doing, we don't provide food. We don't do that at Philippians Place, but we do provide the hygiene items and all of that stuff. We've given away many sleeping bags to those who are homeless, and we cannot find them a place. I actually delivered a sleeping bag to a gentleman not just recently, and got there and realized the sleeping bag was not big enough. So, so double up the sleeping bags for larger people, but we need a variety of size sleeping bags for those. And then I know Cindy at the shelter, when they come to the shelter and they're full, they don't leave empty-handed. They provide them, with the stuff they need. They give them a sleeping bag if they need a sleeping bag. So we do the same thing. So especially with the cold seasons coming up, the gloves, the hats, the feet, even the wool socks, blankets, the sleeping bags, a variety of sizes. I mean, we still, to be honest, sleeping bags would be a great gift for even those people who are doubling up, and those families that are doubling up in the houses. Because what are they sleeping on? Odds are they're sleeping on the floor, and they have just a blanket over them. Well, okay, so then now what do you need to do? You need to turn the heat up. Well, now you're paying even extra more on the electricity bill. It's just a cycle that keeps going. So blankets, and then just supporting with us, supporting our store, donating items to our store, that helps support us, that helps the clients get out of the shelter. And actually when they get into the shelter, then they can come and take the stuff that they want. And then, obviously now we have living room set gone, we have dishes gone, we have towels and linens and all of that gone. And so that helps replenish, and then people that need can come back and get that. And then volunteers. Right. Philippians Place always needs volunteers, and we have a training as well. So they would have to come in and do a training, because it's not, yes, we want you to come in and answer the phone, yes, we want you to come in and teach a class, but it's really not about teaching the class per se. It's actually loving on people, and don't expecting a change like this, and it to be somebody. It's working with people who are on hard times, people who have are lacking in some coping skills possibly. So, and our goal is to end the cycle, not just put a Band-Aid on it, but we want to end that cycle. And so that means teaching them new skills, teaching them how to budget, teaching them how their work ethics. Okay, yeah, if you're late every day, odds are you're going to get fired. So, it's just things that we need to work on. And so, same thing, financial support, volunteers, those are all in need.
And indirect support is a blessing to our organization. We receive a tremendous amount of volunteerism at Christmas Cheer, Soup Kitchen, not as much at Homeless Shelter, because it is more of a special need population, does require training. But when we receive those phone calls, can I volunteer in the shelter? If you don't have time, there are other ways to help. Within your church, within your civic organization, within your network, perhaps hold fundraisers to bring cleaning items, those items that everyone needs to keep a facility clean where people are sleeping. Have a fundraiser in which you bring items for breakfast bars, and so they can take with them in the morning. Those behind the scenes operational supplies, food, when people travel, when they're checking out of their hotel room, the little small bars of soap, those kinds of people who travel a lot bring those items to our shelter. So just be creative. Yes, nonprofits who serve a lot of clients, we need to keep the lights on. We need to have minimum amounts of staffing, and yes, financial support is needed, but also those behind the scenes supplies are needed, and those indirect contributions are very valuable to nonprofits, and we welcome those.
Yeah, even the bus passes.
Yeah,
the bus passes.
Yes.
I mean, that's a huge thing for us too. It's like, they want them, when their clients leave in the morning, they have to go and fill out applications. Well, they're walking, or if they got to go all the way, to Western Boulevard, that's a pretty good hike. So they provide the bus passes, and so do we. And so we want them to come. Okay, we'll see you next time. Here's a bus pass. Come back in, and they need to go to do a job application or do an interview. The last thing we want them to do is be hiking that whole way, get there. Well, in the summertime, that was the issue, is sweating. By the time they're tripping, it's not a good interview from the get-go. So even going down to the city and buying 10 bus passes and donating it to either one of our organizations.
Yeah. Onslow Community Outreach, as I said earlier, we are Helping Hands Ministry, and the bus pass is a resource. We insist a part of your personal self-help plan is employment, housing, counseling, doing something to help yourself. And it's going across town to apply for a job. A helping hand resource is that bus pass that helps get you out of our building to a couple of places where you can apply for a job and to get back safely. So again, those kinds of contributions are very invaluable to supporting our clients to better housing or more permanent housing conditions.
I would have thought of many of those things, especially the bus passes.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, with it being a helping hands, not necessarily lift yourself up, but trying to get them back up.
Yes.
Do you guys see a lot of repeats? I would think that ones you do still.
Yes, we do. You have they can apply 6 months?
We have our clients can come back into our shelter. Initially, the initial stay is up to about 90 days. And after about 6 months or a year, someone can return. But what we're trying to do more is, you know that when you're in a crisis, it's not over immediately. Right. So we try to stay with the person, support, counsel, monitor their situation through our shelter manager, even when they're not in the building. And many of our clients do stay in touch. So I mentioned 300 clients this year, and probably we'll see about at least 25 of those clients that have been in our program before. And that's probably not unusual. Again, people have been in very difficult, trying circumstances, try as they might to take that next step. And when they take that next step, they're taking that next step with very limited resources. And if they had substance abuse, mental health issues, also they had family issues, there are many factors that can sort of, took that very positive step, but the rug is pulled out from under them again, or they do something themselves which cause them to come back into our program.
And that's part of how we work together is, getting them to see us, and then we do, because they do some budgeting, we do budgeting classes. We have somebody that works with them consistently. It's like, okay, now, we got people, it's like, I can now look at them. They've been with us consistently and long enough. It's like, really? What are you doing? What are you thinking? When they're new, you can't say that. But when they've been with you, you can pour into them. And many of our clients, it's all about budgeting. They have no clue how to budget. And, back in the day when you didn't have cards, it's easy. You have to write a check. Well, you have the check register and you budget. Well, you use that card. You don't see money going, and it's hard to balance. And now the food stamps are on cards, so it's very difficult for. That is the number one factor that we see is people just don't know how to budget. And then next thing you know, they got this, they bought this, they went out to eat, and like at the end of the month, I don't have rent. Oh, I don't have electric or whatever. The other factor that part of that is the jobs. Very few jobs you can work 40 hours a week, because then they have to provide benefits. Their way around that, they're only going to work 30 hours, 20 hours a week. Well, when you're making minimum wage 30 hours a week, that doesn't pay all the bills at all. And then we have people who are on disability. We get a lot of people who are on disability. They receive $700 a month. Do the math; it doesn't add up. You can't pay rent, electric, water, gas if they have a card, food. It just doesn't add up, and they are struggling to make ends meet. So we not only do we work with people who are homeless, but we deal with a lot of people. Work with a lot of people in all situations. Most of our clientele are women, so that come through our doors or calls us. We had, I think in November we had 67 that came through and contacted us, and 49 of those were women. So typically, when people say homeless, the first thing people think of is male, and that's not true. Not here. So in some areas it is, but not here. So.
Well, I definitely appreciate you guys taking the time to talk with us. I know I've learned a lot, and I was moderately familiar with both programs, so I appreciate that. And then, have anybody ask questions during this?
No, we don't have any questions. So if you guys do have any, please put them in the comment section shortly.
That works. Hopefully that just means that we've covered so many bases that
Yes.
we'll have questions.
Exactly.
I like that version. I really do appreciate you guys talking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Merry Christmas again.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And then, still good?
Yep, we're still good, but both of you guys have been tagged in this post, so if there are questions, if you guys wouldn't mind just going back and answering any, or we can help facilitate that if we have questions that come in after the live video is done, so don't hesitate to ask.
Can you say where we're located again?
Yeah, contact information would be great.
Yeah, okay. Philippians Place is over at 901 Henderson Drive, which is the corner of Henderson and Doris Avenue. We are in the old Brookwood Daycare building. So our program office is in the front. If you're in need, come and see us. We will assist you however we can. Or come visit our resale store. It's the third building from the road. I call it a boutique with a thrift store prices because it does not look like a thrift store. And that pretty much supports Philippians Place and everything that we do. So
Onslow Community Outreach, our main office is downtown Jacksonville, 600 Court Street, which is about 1 block from the courthouse. In that facility is our homeless shelter, our soup kitchen, and small administrative office. We're available at onslowco.org as well as 910-455-5733.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much.
thank you.
And then if you guys have any questions about how to help, just let us know in the comment section, or you can reach out to either organization and we will go from there and get it answered. Thank you.
Thank you.